Third, an abolitionist bill, and this is sort of goes along with those, but what we look for specifically is equal protection under the law. And the kind of shorthand for this is like the laws against murder will be equally applied to all people, to all human beings.
Right. And so there are three reasons why this third component is very important. And I've written about this both on our website, and also I wrote an article, I co-wrote it with a friend of mine, Georgie Borman, for The Federalist. Mm-hmm. And there's three reasons why this one's really, really important. So the first one is that if you don't provide equal protection, if you don't treat the murder of a preborn child the same as the murder of a born child, if you include a blanket immunity for the mother, which is what all pro-life bills do. Yep. They say the mother is immune from prosecution. If you do that, the first problem is that you've legalized self-induced abortion, which is really on the rise because abortion pill technology is being developed. And so if you say a bill is good in every other respect, right? It fits every other component, does everything we want it to do,
but says there will be no justice or punishment for the mother.
Right. What you now have is legal self-induced pill abortions. Yeah. Which, I mean, there's websites
or even non-pill abortions.
Or even non-pill abortions, which isn't as popular.
Someone it's not as popular because it's dangerous and people are selfish. But people always bring up coat hangers and they're like, well, did you want this to happen? And I always want to be like, it's wrong to murder a baby with a coat hanger too. And it's also stupid. But today you can just get on the internet and order abortion
and have it shipped right to your door.
Yeah, and then you take it. So this is someone who's malice, forethought, ordering a pill to get rid of their child. And then you've got pro-life legislation that protects them completely.
Yeah.
That there will not be any punishment.
Coat hanger thing is so frustrating to me. It's like, unless you let me do this psychotic thing to my child, I'm going to do the psychotic thing to myself and my child.
Yeah. If you don't allow me to pay someone to kill my baby with surgical instruments, I'm going to use this. And it's like, you realize you're a bunch of like angry feminists waving around coat hangers saying, if you don't allow us to kill our babies, we're going to kill our babies. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's what we deal with. Right. So that was the first thing. If you write into your laws protection for the mother, the laws against murder are not going to be equally applied to mothers. Mothers have an exemption. Right. You're not allowed to murder human beings unless you're that human being's mother and that human being is in the womb.
Right.
That's awful.
Right. So the second reason is that you've now provided no incentive for that mother not to have an abortion, which is one of the things of laws. It should lead people away from bad things like murder. It should teach people that that's wrong. Yeah. And
the law's a tutor in that event.
Right. And so Laura Klassen, if you're not following Laura Klassen on Facebook and Twitter, you should be. She's awesome. She posted on Facebook a while back asking post-abortive mothers, would you have done this if abortion was a criminal act and you would have been looking at criminal charges for murdering your child? And every single person who responded, who was post-abortive, said, no, I would not have.
Yeah, and she's got fans that are pro-life, pro-lifers and abolition. I mean, she's got all sorts of people listening to her. So it's not. It wasn't like all bunch of abolitionists who were like, got their mind straight on this. They were like answering. Right. It was like actual pro-lifers who are that are post-abortive. They were like, you know what? I wouldn't have.
I would not have risked a first-degree murder charge to do this.
Yeah, because and think about it. The reason that people are killing their children is because they're selfishness. Like it's the sin of selfishness. And so the reason that they would also not kill their children because they're selfish. Like I don't want to go to prison. I don't want to get in trouble. And so the law is supposed to function in that way to prohibit the evildoer from doing things. Yeah. And so I mean, it wasn't just the Laura Klassen thing, which you have just a ton of evidence, but pretty much any post-abortive woman that I've ever talked to. Yeah. Because we've had a number of post-abortive mothers in the state of Oklahoma who have spoken at the rally for Senate Bill 13, made videos and basically said, I am post-abortive. I support the total criminalization of abortion. Yep. And furthermore, I probably would not have aborted my child if it would have meant homicide.
Right.
And then then you talk to them and they say, like, I never even really, like, they'll say, I knew in my heart that I was doing something wrong. But all the lawmakers were telling me it wasn't homicide.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
At the hearing for the Texas abolition bill last year, I think that it was like 312 people or something like that who testified in favor of the abolition bill. And it was like 9 or 10 of them were post-abortive mothers. And then there's also Jason Storms.
post-abortive father.
Right, a good friend of ours, post-abortive father, testifying in favor of that bill. And one of the things that Jason talked about was, me and my ex-girlfriend would never have done this.
Yeah.
Right? There's no chance. We would have, if we were looking at first-degree murder, our child would be alive. And he said, my child will be 22 years old, and they'd be here testifying alongside me.
Yeah.
Which is it's really interesting with the double victim narrative where they just treat women as just these stupid people who don't know that they have a baby.
Yeah.
That's their argument for why we couldn't have the criminalization right now. But then the criminalization would get rid of that component.
It'd be the main thing telling them.
This is murder. And so they would know.
Yeah.
It's like, if
you
they
can't
don't know
punish
now,
them for murdering their children. They don't think they're murdering their children. So how dare you tell them that they're murdering their children?
Yeah. So, that would inform them immediately. But then also, on top of that, it's like, it's this drive to be compassionate towards women and this like sort of feminist type of push for
to appear as compassionate to the culture.
Yeah, because a lot of times it's both. You may have the actual, it's just like the earlier thing we were talking about. It's like, but we want to appear as compassionate.
Well, it's like, it's all this argument against these feminists that are saying, oh, you're not pro-women, you hate women, and blah, 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 blah. And they'll use this as their push against them, but then they end up making this super sexist argument where you have no moral culpability for women that are murdering their child. Like, you're not even treating them as a moral agent, and you're not treating them as intelligent.
Yeah.
And so, like, what does that say about your view about women? You're saying it's murder.
Yeah.
But then you're saying women can't know that it's murder, even though they know that it's murder.
Women can't know it's murder, even if you tell them it's murder.
Yeah,
like it's super demeaning. Like from start to finish, these pro-life bills are generally demeaning to women. Even if you're not talking about the we're not going to hold you culpable. This whole idea that like women don't know what they're doing, like they don't know what a baby is, or where babies come from.
Yeah.
Or, anything about embryological development. And then you go over to the pro-choicer pages, the pro-abort pages, and all that kind of stuff. Or you look at their signs, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. But then they also treat the dads in the situation like they are moral agents and they are intelligent enough to know that the baby is being murdered. Just like, all these people are abusive. Yeah, the pro-lifers do. Yeah. Oh, these fathers are abusive. They're forcing these women into it, and they're pressuring them.
Yeah.
And their families pressuring them. So it's like the shift
Yeah.
of all this moral culpability on everyone.
Because the man knows what he's doing, and he's taking her to do the abortion to get rid of the child so he doesn't have to raise it.
Yeah.
Because he's not an nincompoop when it comes to where humans come from. Yeah, it's crazy because they're like pro-life, pro-woman, pro-science. Well, actually, you're demeaning towards women, you're scientifically ignorant, and you're not really pro-life because you have all these exceptions for when it's okay to kill a human being.
Right.
Hey, harshest truth, sorry. But it's just absolute self-refuting rubbish. Okay, so that's the automatic immunity doesn't provide incentive.
One final point on that: if the father is involved in the decision to murder the baby, then he should face a murder charge as well.
Yeah.
So
So the equal protection here isn't just saying the mother and only the mother.
Right.
It's everyone and anyone involved in a murder because there's co-conspirators.
Yeah.
Right.
And there was, we were talking a second ago about Laura Clausen's post. There was one person who did decide.
Yes, we're going to come back to that. The one person who said, I still would have had the abortion even if it had been first-degree murder. The one person who said that was Abby Johnson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abby Johnson was like, I still would have done it. And the reason I think that she claimed that she still would have done it was because she's trying to defend this idea that women don't know what they're doing, and that they're still going to do it anyways, even if you make it first-degree murder. And she's trying to justify all these pro-life messaging strategies.
She's pro-life industry, pro-life establishment.
Yeah.
So she's got to lie about everything, in order to like protect the things that they're going to do. She's going to be on a stage with people that are backing, killing babies for all these reasons. She's got to on this informal survey said, no, I would have still done it if it were homicide. When everybody else who doesn't have a stake in it.
Right.
Yeah.
Is like, no, I wouldn't have done it.
Dozens and dozens of post-abortive, mostly mothers, I think a few fathers, all were unanimous. No,
Yeah.
I would not. I would not have
Yeah.
faced
Except for the
murder
literal
one.
most famous pro-lifer.
Right.
Yeah.
In the world.
Well, and then the mind-boggling thing to me was that Laura makes a post saying, okay, there was only one person who dissented, and it was Abby Johnson. And then all of her supporters got mad
Abby
at
Johnson
Laura
supporters, yeah.
for revealing that Abby Johnson was the only person who would, have aborted her child. It's like, why wouldn't you reveal that? If everyone is saying criminalization would have stopped me from killing my child, and Abby Johnson is the only one who's saying otherwise, why wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and in the end, what is Abby Johnson wanting to do? Criminalize abortion? No, because if you can't, this is crazy. You're not going to hear me agree with President Trump very often.
Yeah,
but I will agree with campaigning President Trump back before he was president when he said, "Well, yeah, if there's, if it's going to be, if we're going to go against abortion, it's got to be some kind of punishment."
Yeah.
Because it just logically makes sense. You can't criminalize something. What kind of sense does it make? You're not allowed to do this, but if you do it, we're going to protect you.
You can't steal that car. It's a criminal act, but you're not going to be punished for it.
In fact, you'll get to keep the car. It's just like, you're not allowed to murder your baby, but if you do murder your baby, you just want to have a baby, and that'll be. But the pro-lifers will be like, and that's punishment enough. It's like, well, I'm sure that the person who murders another born person has trouble sleeping.
Yeah.
So do we protect them, because of the damage it does to them to be a murderer?
Right.
Yeah.
So and on that vein, trotting out the toddler against pro-lifers is very helpful, right? And then that's something that pro-lifers use against pro-choicers. They say, well, pro-choicers think that murdering born or preborn children is okay. Well, would it be okay to murder a born child for that reason? And it's the same thing you can do against pro-lifers, right? Pro-lifers will say, well, if it's preborn, the mother shouldn't face any punishment. But what about if the mother murders her newborn child because the child was conceived in rape?
Yeah.
Right? And
And they changed the standard
law
of
has to be
coercion
the
there
same.
too. When you use that for coercion, because when they're thinking about coercion, they're thinking about like, oh, she might get kicked out of her apartment, she might get like all these different things.
Yeah.
But then when you think, okay, but would a woman with her born child, would she be justified in strangling them to death? Like no punishment, strangling them to death because she was going to get kicked out of her apartment? No. They completely changed the standard for coercion.
Because it's ageism. It's not treating the child in the womb equal as an equal human with equal justice under the law. It's so a lot of this that we're covering these components and showing that the pro-lifers are so inconsistent and that these are bills. This is why we want to make sure that they're in the bills. Right. So we're going to move on to the third one, but the last point on equal protection that you wanted to bring up.
Yeah. So there's a third reason why it's very important for equal protection to be included in a bill, and that is the fact that not having equal protection undercuts us both morally in our moral argument against abortion and actually legally as well. And so on the legal front, I'm gonna quote directly from the Roe decision here. This is Roe footnote 54. So this is the author of Roe is Justice Harry Blackmun, and this is him explaining his decision to decriminalize abortion in every state. He writes, I should preface this. So Texas, the state of Texas was saying that the 14th Amendment applies to the preborn child, and so equal protection has to be given to the preborn child. And Blackmun's response is, there are other inconsistencies between 14th Amendment status and the typical abortion statute. It has already been pointed out that in Texas, the woman is not a principal or an accomplice with respect to an abortion upon her. If the fetus is a person, why is the woman not a principal or an accomplice? Further, the penalty for criminal abortion specified by Article 1195 is significantly less than the maximum penalty for murder prescribed by Article 1257 of the Texas Penal Code. If the fetus is a person, may the penalties be different. And so what he's saying there is that if you're going to argue equal protection, if you're going to argue that the child in the womb is equal to the child or human outside the womb, you can't have different penalties for killing one as opposed to killing the other. You've got to actually, you can't just say they're equal and then treat them unequally under law. You've got to actually provide the same penalty for murdering the one as you provide for murdering the other. And if you don't, you've undercut yourself in the court of law, you've undercut yourself.
Yeah,
Which
and they're
is
going to bring it
really
up in
interesting.
court.
Yeah, because that's what's really interesting about that to me is because they appeal to what the law was previously in order to...
Pro-lifers do?
Pro-lifers do. They appeal to what the law was before on abortion in order to justify what they want to do in the future.
Yeah. They'll say, we've never punished the woman. And you're
Yeah.
like, and that's why abortion is legal.
That's how we got Roe in the first place.
You got Roe in the first place from the very beginning because of this unequal justice.
Yeah.
So hugely important point. And, for pro-lifers watching this or listening to this, they need to deal with that. These things aren't just bad because they're ineffective ways of getting rid of abortion. These things are bad because they're the reasons that we have abortion.
And so once again, we've got this intrinsic injustice, right, of not providing equal protection, not treating them equally under the law, not treating preborn children equal to born children. And then the secondary effect of that intrinsic injustice is that you've undercut yourself.
Yeah.
As Blackman explained in footnote 54.
So from the beginning, they've been self-refuting because of not applying equal protection. So super important.